Namaskar friends, today we are going to deal with chapter 7, taking actions when a crisis actually strikes. The importance of crisis anticipation and planning. Anticipating and preparing for crisis is far less traumatic and costly than confronting an unexpected calamity without a plan. So assuming that an organization will remain immune to crisis is a risky and unfounded assumption. For some leaders, overcoming a paradigm blindness, a condition where individuals are unable to perceive the information that challenges their worldview, is critical in preparing for potential crisis. Numerous examples highlights devastating consequence of lacking a crisis management plan. Many cases illustrate how proactive planning and effective execution can mitigate damage and even bring about positive organizational changes. So the focus is divided into three key sections. One is initial response, and second one is crisis management and mitigation, and third is post-crisis recovery. Initial response is actions taken at the beginning of the crisis are crucial in assessing and understanding the situation. Crisis management and mitigation is effective strategies to manage the crisis and minimize its impact on organization and its stakeholders. And the post-crisis recovery steps for recovery and re-entry and ensuring business continuity to help organizations regroup and resume normal operations. So the activating the crisis management team, the first step is informally responding to a crisis is activating the crisis management team. This process may begin with a simple notification from an employee or a stakeholder, alerting that a CMT member to develop for potential crisis. Once activated, the crisis management team convenes to assess the situation and take immediate action. So the nature of the crisis determines the type and the speed of response. Sudden events like industrial accidents, chemical spills, require rapid responses. In contrast, slower developing crises such as hostile takeovers, labor unrest, consumer boycotts, etc. gives more time. So the role of the crisis management team or crisis management plan is a crisis management plan. The crisis management plan is a critical organizational tool that enables swift and strategic decision making during the first crucial hours. So the important things are framing the problem, clearly identifying the nature and scope of the crisis, assigning responsibilities, determining which individuals or teams are responsible for implementing key actions, facilitating decision making, supporting informed and justified decisions during the crisis. Ultimately, a well-constructed CMP enables organization to think and act quickly by following a structured plan. So the organizations, if they are following a structured plan, they can better protect their reputation, stakeholders, and long-term viability. Next is the leadership of the crisis management team. Effective leadership is important. The right leadership. A capable leader is essential to direct the team, make decisions, and maintain focus during the crisis. Then there's adequate structure and resources. The team has adequate structure and resources to effectively respond, and the broad public support, maintaining public trust and support is critical or crucial to reinforce the organization's credibility during a crisis. So the key traits of CMT leadership is team collaboration, should be fully aware of their roles and responsibilities, be open to suggestions from other team members. Leadership and management skills. The CMT leader must possess a combination of leadership and management abilities to inspire confidence, ensure coordinated and effective decision making, drive the implementation. So strong leadership coupled with a well-equipped team and the public support forms the foundations for effective crisis management. Key skills of a CMT leader. Situation assessment, accurately defining the nature and scope of the problem. Decision making, making timely, informed decisions. Team coordination, ensuring seamless coordination among CMT members. Communication, receiving and delivering relevant information. monitoring, staying updated on key developments, delegating, assigning specific tasks to individuals, prioritizing, determining the urgency and importance of incoming information to decide what needs immediate attention, and planning, actively participating in the planning process and motivating team members to complete the assigned tasks. So these are the skills needed for a crisis management team leader. So the roles and responsibilities of crisis management team. The leader is pivotal role, managing, resolving crisis. By leveraging their competencies, leader must take charge of the situation, that is, initiate the crisis response by assessing the seriousness, determining the resources required, making critical decisions to address and resolve the crisis. Implementing the crisis plan. The leader ensures effective execution of the crisis management plan by maintaining frequent communication with team members and providing clear direction. Remain visible and accessible. Visibility, accessibility. Key competencies and actions, they should be calm and focused under pressure. The ability to remain calm and composed and focused is essential when making high pressure decisions. Adaptability to unprecedented situations. Some crises challenge existing assumptions and take the team into uncharted territory, often referred to as cosmology episodes. The leaders must adapt quickly and guide them through these unfamiliar scenarios. Objective decision making, making an unbiased and methodological approach to allows leader to address complex, confusing situations. Managing crisis stressors, chaotic events, communication breakdowns. They should be able to address that. Time pressures, high stakes, accountability, fear of failure and media scrutiny, and information challenges including overload, ambiguity, or gaps. So the leadership flexibility is important. One leader is managing a natural resources may require different skills from one addressing a product recall. So it is context dependent. A leader dealing with employee sabotage or violence faces unique challenges and requires tailored approaches. A strong crisis leader to the specific demands of such organizations. Often this mentorship happens organically as a leader demonstrates effective crisis management practices. So the strong crisis leader adapts to specific demands of each situation while also mentoring less experienced team members. Situational assessment and mitigation strategies. The crisis management team begins by conducting through situational assessments to guide decision making and mitigate the crisis. This process involves information processing, that is gathering, analyzing, and interpreting relevant data, knowledge creation, building a clear understanding of the crisis, situational awareness, developing a comprehensive perspective of the crisis to identify dimensions and anticipate its trajectory, mitigation strategies. So once the situational assessment is complete, the CMT, the crisis management team, identifies and implements strategies to address the crisis. Flexibility and reassessment. So regularly reassess the situation as crisis can evolve rapidly, often changing in scope or intensity on an hourly basis. Direct crisis resolution. Focus on addressing the crisis head-on to restore stakeholder confidence and stabilize operations. Minimizing the damage. Primary objective at the onset of a crisis is to minimize potential harm. In some cases, opportunities may arise to turn negative circumstances into positive outcomes for the organization. Strategic adjustments. Be prepared to modify strategies after implementation. Long-term management. The initial response serves as the foundation for managing crisis for long-term and ensuring organizations' survival. The ultimate goal is to contain the crisis quickly and restore normal operations. Crisis management involves decision-making processes similar to projects, but a unique focus on the immediate containment and recovery. By prioritizing awareness and flexibility, the crisis management team effectively navigate complex challenges, minimize disruption to the organization, and let the organization work smoothly. Initial communications during a crisis. Alert and assemble crisis management team. Collect all relevant information. assign tasks and continue finding, develop solution alternatives, implement the chosen solutions, communicate with the media, review what happened. So one is identify and inform stakeholders. Determine the major stakeholders involved and provide them with an accurate assessment of the situation. Engage the media proactively. In certain scenarios, it may be necessary to issue the first statements to the media swiftly to control the narrative, and minimize the speculations. Otherwise, they will spread the news, which is not the way you want it. So the decision-making steps is, one is, again, I already talked about it. One is activate the crisis management team. As soon as the crisis is detected, convene the crisis management team to initiate the response process. Collect relevant information. Gather as much information. What happened? Who was involved? Where did it take place? What is the current status? Assign tasks and continue fact-finding. Delegate responsibilities to team members. Don't try to do everything by your own. Ensuring tasks are handled efficiently. Continue gathering and verifying fast as situation evolves. Develop solution alternatives. Identify potential solutions to address crisis effectively. Implement chosen solutions. Competent execution is critical. So it requires competent personnel, adequate time allocation, proper financial resources. Communicate with the media. Be proactive in engaging the media to present the organization's perspective. Review and evaluate. After the immediate crisis subsides, assess the decisions and their outcomes. Identify lessons learned to improve the performance in the future to respond to these future crisis management responses. Information needs during a crisis. For all effective crisis management, it is critical that managers and staffs across all divisions adopt a systematic and unified approach to gathering and utilizing information. A structured information strategy helps in monitoring and evaluating the crisis, enabling timely adjustments as needed. Key considerations: monitoring and evaluation, continuously assess unfolding situations, regularly evaluate the opinions, making adjustments. Influence and responsiveness. The crisis management team should not only monitor, but also actively influence it, refining the message, alerting the target organs, changing the tone or method of communication. So the essential elements of crisis information is, one is timeliness. Information must be provided to the crisis management team. Delayed information as promptly as possible, and delayed information can be ineffective or inappropriate. Accuracy. The information must be precise about the location, detailed description, and the current status. Accurate and timely information is the foundation of effective crisis management, ensuring informed decision-making and swift action. Establishing a reliable information flow, systems and resources, process and structures in place. So without a well-developed system for obtaining and managing information, any crisis management effort is significantly hindered. So proactively implementing these structures ensures that organizations can respond effectively and adapt to the crisis situations. And strategies during this crisis, response and mitigation. So the mid-crisis stage is a critical turning point of all affected stakeholders with three potential scenarios. One is crisis under control, two is ongoing crisis, and three is crisis escalation. So one, crisis under control. Indications suggest that the crisis is manageable, damage can be contained. So this is a positive sign, allowing the organization to operate in a near normal capacity. Two is ongoing crisis. Crisis managers must continue assessing the situation and take decisive actions to regain control. And the third stage is crisis escalation. The situation may appear hopeless, requiring managers to focus on salvaging what they can for the organization. So the key actions: evaluate the scenario, assess the resources, estimate time frames, identify the victims, and finally the mitigation goals. So first is evaluating the scenario. Determine which of the three scenarios is currently unfolding. Identify available resources. Estimate time frames. Determine how long it will take to execute critical decisions. Identify the victims, such as who and what are being impacted by crisis, including employees, customers, stakeholders, organizational assets. So the mitigation roles is basically, regardless, it is likely to cause some degree of damage. So crisis management team should focus on following bottom line objectives: damage containment. Take feasible actions to minimize harm to people affected by the crisis. Organization's reputation should be maintained. Tangible and intangible assets. Again, minimize harm to the tangible and intangible assets. Intangible assets is goodwill. All the physical properties are tangible, right? So the stabilization and recovery. Implement strategies that stabilize the situation and set the foundation for recovery. By carefully evaluating the scenarios, leveraging resources, and prioritizing containment efforts, crisis managers can effectively navigate the mid-crisis stage and work towards mitigating its impact on the organization. Damage containment. Damage containment always involves efforts to prevent the effects of crisis from spreading and impacting other areas of business. Effective containment relies on providing accurate and timely information to its right stakeholders. So the key goals are: 1, gaining complete control of the crisis; 2, conducting frequent damage assessments; 3, restoring normal operations. First is gaining complete control, establishing the authority and clarity in managing the crisis, conducting frequent damage assessments, regularly evaluating the extent of damage to adjust strategies, and implementing measures to bring the organization back to normalcy. So proactive and reactive perspectives in crisis management include: proactive is anticipate potential crisis and prepare response plans in advance. So develop communication strategies, pre-draft media releases to ensure swift responses. Reactive is adapt to the unique challenges and developments of the crisis as they unfold. Monitor the crisis closely to determine or implement real-time adjustment. So the communication is important, both with internal and external stakeholders. Organizational crises often negatively affect both internal and external stakeholders. Honest and efficient communication with these groups is vital. Key communication strategies include initiating media communications, develop a clear understanding of the crisis, and select an appropriate response. Anticipate the need to communicate and prepare press releases in advance. Ensure timely updates to the media and to maintain transparency and control the narrative. Restoring stakeholder confidence, utilize organizational spokespersons to reassure stakeholders. Maintain a presence at the crisis scene, actively participating in recovery efforts. And timely communication, quick communication, is essential to manage stakeholder perceptions and maintaining the trust. So by prioritizing the damage containment, proactive preparation, transparent communication, organizations can effectively manage crisis, mitigate the damage, restore the confidence among the stakeholders. Particularly, the communication is very, very important. Now we look at the assessing the crisis. Crisis evaluation is not a one-time activity. It's an ongoing process. Allows the crisis management team to identify what strategies are working and make necessary adjustment to improve the response. So the key evaluation questions: the following benchmark questions should be addressed. 1, impact on stakeholders; 2, financial impact and the effectiveness to response strategies or effectiveness of response strategies. Impact on stakeholders. How has the crisis influenced the behaviors and opinions of both internal and external stakeholders? To what extent, financial impact is to what extent have sales and share prices been affected? Effectiveness of response strategies. Which crisis response strategies and tactics have been proven effective? Which approaches were effective, ineffective, and need to be revised? So the public perception is human-induced versus natural crisis. Human-induced crisis, events such as corporate scandals or ethical violations are often perceived as more negatively by the public. These crises can significantly harm the reputation. Natural disasters. The public generally views companies affected by natural disasters as victims of external forces beyond their control. In such cases, the organization's reputation may not be as severely as impacted. So the continuous evaluation is crucial to understand effectiveness of crisis response strategies and adapting to as needed to mitigate the crisis impact on stakeholders and the organization. So you have to adapt. You have to understand and adapt. That is the role of assessing the crisis. So methods that can be used to obtain the information: tracking financial performance, establishing communication channels, conducting focus groups, surveying external publics, documenting media communication, analyzing strategy effectiveness. So tracking financial performance, monitor sales and profit during and after the crisis to assess its economic impact. Establishing communication channels. Set up a dedicated line for stakeholders to ask questions, to share comments about the crisis and the management. Conducting focus group. Gather insights from key stakeholders through facilitated discussions. Surveying external publics. Use surveys to evaluate public attitudes towards organization and crisis response. Documenting media communications. Keep records of information flow to and from the media during the crisis, whether that was good enough. Analyzing strategy effectiveness. Record and assess which crisis response strategies were successful and investigate why others were not. The end of the crisis is rebuilding and moving forward. Once the immediate crisis subsides, the focus shifts to recovery and rebuilding. This phase involves strategic planning and leveraging lessons learned to minimize the long-term negative impacts, damage assessment, advanced planning implementation, business continuity. One is damage assessment. The crisis management team must evaluate the extent of the damage and determine available resources. Advanced planning implementation. Utilize the crisis management plan to expedite recovery efforts and guide decision making. Strategic thinking. Approach the recovery with an entrepreneurial mindset similar to the startup of the business. Business continuity. Focus on restoring essential business functions to ensure day-to-day operations can resume as quickly as possible. So the recovery and continuity planning are essential to regaining the stability and preparing the organization for future challenges. Business continuity is important. So the business continuity refers to an organization's ability to resume or sustain essential activities after a crisis. It involves maintaining critical business functions both during and after crisis to minimize disruptions. This is particularly important for organizations that plays a key role in supply networks, where meeting customer demands as a priority. Two areas: MIS, Management Information Systems, and production operations capabilities. MIS and production operations. Organizations often take proactive steps to ensure business continuity in the event of a crisis that impacts their management information systems. Companies may partner with external vendors specializing in management information systems restoration and or prepare alternative facilities to mitigate disruptions. So alternative work sites. Organizations may establish backup facilities to continue operations if their primary site becomes unavailable due to a crisis. Hot sites, warm sites, and cold sites. Hot sites is the fully equipped facility with all necessary hardware, software, and electronic connections. Warm sites is partially equipped facilities that provide some resources but require additional setup before becoming fully optional or operational. Cold sites is facilities that are ready for use but require all the necessary equipments and connections to be brought in. Second is the production operations, ensuring in M&IS is specific. It is wise to mention about cloud-based, operation management information systems now available to companies. Production operations. Ensuring the continuity of production operations is critical to maintain the supply chain and meeting customer expectations. Employees' needs after crisis. In the aftermath of a crisis, addressing the employees' economic and emotional aspect needs or emotional needs is a vital thing to retain the talent and fostering loyalty. Employees may seek alternate employment if their financial security is at risk. Some organizations continue to pay displaced employees, enabling them to support their families during the recovery period. However, this approach is feasible only if the financial is good. Supporting employees during recovery can help stabilize operations, enhance morale, and ensuring that the organization is better prepared for the future challenges. So you have to be careful about the emotional and financial needs of the employees while you are going through a crisis. Okay, you know what I'm going to say. Please read the textbook for more details. Thank you for your time. And this is Dr. V signing off.